Good afternoon. Welcome back to House Student Services. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. We are going to have some general discussion about our S-157 bill this afternoon. We do have a witness at 2:30, and I also wanted to just have a little bit of a discussion about our UPK language that ended up in the ed bill that was just passed moments ago, almost. So let's start with that because Madam Chair shared, I don't remember if that was today or yesterday, that things kind of evolved in this week from where we were going, and the work that we had done did not make it into the education bill around UPK. And what we left the Ed Committee yesterday feeling very strongly that if we're not going to get the language in, we want to make sure that we get our intentions known and kind of putting everyone on notice that this is where we're headed in the future. And because the funding mechanisms are still needing to be worked out, and we have that piece in the JFO study, we felt not great about it, but we felt it was a compromise to say we'll just add intent language and address this at a later time. And then as I've reflected on this today and have had some conversations with colleagues, it also makes me feel satisfied that by the time whoever comes back next year and the legislature has another look at this, I think the administration is going to have a lot more information, and just the collaboration that's been happening between AOE and the department will just even be stronger, and we'll be able to do a lot more than what we were able to do this year, which would have been a really great step forward, but I think we'll be in a much stronger position. So the language, Teresa sent it out this morning to everyone. So I just want to give folks an opportunity to look at it, ask any questions if you have it. What we ended up doing is creating a section that talks about the inequity for UPK. So we created a finding section around UPK and cited all the things that were kind of in our memo to the Education Committee about access and availability of slots, and then added a section around legislative intent, and that is basically what we were kind of hoping to achieve by our language, but we're saying like to be addressed at a later date, but will definitely be something we take up in future years, hopefully next session, next biennium. So do folks have any questions or comments? Eric looks like you.
No, I'm just reading under the findings section, only 11% of eligible children are enrolled in pre-kindergarten services.
Full day.
And full day in Essex County.
Is that a full day or is that in the UPK program?
Essex County one is, that is only 11% of children in Northeast Kingdom in Essex County.
And that's partly
That's
why
one of the lowest, where there's just enrollment is really low. That's not to say that slots aren't available, right? So we had two different pieces of testimony. We had testimony from Building Bright Future that talked about enrollment and how many kids are actually accessing services. And then we also had testimony from First Children's Finance that talked about slots. And they had a table that kind of had all the different counties and what the capacity is. And that's the one, that's number 4. So that's really talking about slots and what's available. So there's disparity in enrollment and in capacity, what's available. So both those things need to be addressed in a sense, because something, Teresa and I have talked about and we wondered is in areas of the state where the enrollment is really low, are people even aware of the benefit? Do they even know that this is available to them? And our school districts, and that's part of the problem of not having anybody in charge of this, is our school districts finding the families that could benefit from this and matching them up with a provider. Because I think there might be slots there, there might be capacity there, it's just enrollment, or are families choosing not to enroll their kids? So those are all things that I think the department CDD with BBF and AOE are gonna be working on as far as gathering more data on the landscape in this year. That will help us, kind of understand better why those numbers are the way they are and how to address them in the next iteration of this.
Can you just describe the process that this, if that we go from here, then what happens next? I don't really understand how it's gonna. I mean, this is a committee bill.
This is a committee bill, and this committee bill will not change the underlying UPK statute. So what was passed in Act 166 will not be changed as a result of what's happening here. The intent of Act 73 was for us to improve access and to figure out the funding mechanism.
That's how
The funding mechanism piece will be dealt with in the JFO, in the work that the contractor is doing for the JFO. And then the access piece will be dealt with by a future legislature. But because the intent is here, it's making sure that a future legislature will address it, that this is our intent, that this will be addressed in the future. So there will have to be language in a future bill. As we're working on the education transformation, there's going to be a bill around education and what needs to happen next. So we'll have opportunities in the future, in the next biennium.
So the intent here, this would come to the floor and get voted on in the floor. Well, it won't go to the Senate though.
Well, the whole bill will.
This is gonna,
This is part of,
this will become part of of Act 73?
This will be part of the bill that was just voted out, that went to Ways and Means. Education Committee just.
The
voted that
Education
out.
Committee bill, yeah,
This is
okay.
language that's inserted into that.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's,
The
okay.
ed bill,
This-
this year's ed bill.
Okay, so the Education Committee said okay to this?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay,
And now it's gonna go to Ways and Means and then wherever
See,
it's gonna
okay.
travel.
all right.
can I ask a question about about finding number 5, which in part references less than 5% of Vermont's pre-qualified pre-kindergarten providers provide a full day of 4 or more hours of pre-kindergarten education. Was that a
From
first?
here, that's from here, the NIEER. There was a big map that they had that showed most states offer, it's mostly 4-year-olds that are getting full day, more than 4 hours a day, but still Vermont is way under for 3 and 4-year-olds, where we're not offering full day.
Full day is, okay,
Full day of 4 hours or
or
more
more.
per day.
Roughly, was that downstairs? We took the testimony?
No, I'll send it to you. It's on our webpage.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall the date finder. I guess I can look up.
If you look in our witness list,
Yes.
Gigi was and it's just G and a G. I was spelling it G-I-G-I. It's her presentation from, and it's, I think, the map.
Thank you.
March 11th. Any other questions? Okay. So next, let's spend a couple minutes talking about, Esme, I think you want to talk about witnesses for 157. So I know this morning, I mean, the testimony was great this morning from DCF. I felt like they gave us, am I talking about the right bill? Yeah, the work group, right? This is the,
Oh, sorry, wrong bill number.
239.
Yeah, 239.
239 is.
Oh, 239 is
That's
The working group.
the working group.
Yeah,
Okay,
157
157,
is
239, so that's what. So do you have ideas, suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I love, the direction Chair was going this morning with, especially like position to deal, more in a more targeted way with this particular population of people affected. I think I'd have to sit with it a bit. I didn't know we were gonna have this conversation right now. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so like one thing I wanted to do was make sure that we are being strategic in areas of overlap. For example, like the document I worded the group about the other working group with the other federal
The
funds.
Children's Justice
Yeah.
Task Force.
And thinking about who's on that list, and how that could play a role, like in positive overlap ways, but also like who's missing from that list, definitely. So, yeah, definitely, I think, more to consider for people, especially with lived experience, what is the best direct avenue to get them to the table? And what are the gaps? Which I think there are some.
One of the things that I've been thinking about, and I talked to the actually sponsor of the bill earlier today about, is really thinking about giving the work group some structure on what to look at.
Yeah,
Because I feel like this, the underlying statute is really complex and broad. So it does feel appropriate to kind of give some guidelines of these are kind of the things, and these are maybe some of the best practices. So I'm looking forward to what DCF is going to provide us as far as what we should be thinking about asking the work group to look at.
Also, the crime victims group, Jen, I would love to speak to her more about this, especially hearing that they were deeply involved in the
Yeah.
inception of the bill.
Yeah, one of the questions I had that I didn't ask is I would want to hear from them is, since they were the ones that were the kind of the impetus for the bill, do they feel the bill is capturing what they had initially? Because the way DCF was talking about it this morning, it didn't seem like how it started. So I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, like, they get the piece that they were most worried about addressed in
Totally.
the things that we're looking to review.
Yeah. In my rankings for testimony, that would be one that comes like in chronological order, maybe even before others, based on that feedback from this morning.
So I want to bring up I appreciate what you brought up this morning about the timeline, and I think that still needs some consideration. In fact, it's starting a work group in August with the expectations of a report being provided in January. You're running up into the winter holiday seasons, and then you're asking for them to report back on, reviewing statutes and the DCF rules and policies, and collecting stakeholder feedback, research best practices from other states that cap this stuff. I'd really like for us to maybe consider looking at expanding that timeline. That way they can really do their due diligence and provide some good, strong recommendations and not feel rushed to just get something on paper and submitted.
I think that's a good question for all the witnesses too, because I think we're going to have a lot of the members that we're considering putting on the work group testify. So one thing that the chair mentioned this morning, which is accurate, is they're not limited to meeting once a month because they're all working in their professional capacity, so they could meet longer. But I hear you, with the holidays between November and December, it might be tricky and challenging scheduling things.
I guess to get a sense of what degree of urgency is there in the field in getting this out? Because whatever new time, if we were to identify a new timeline, what does that mean for trying to get introduction of something for the first year of the next biennium? Is that important, or can it just,
Yeah.
as long as we take care of it in the next biennium?
Yeah, that's where the benefit can come in, moving it up to like April 15th and then the second half of the biennium.
And we could even-
Structure.
We could even ask for an update in, a presentation in January, or
January,
February to the
okay.
committee, and then a report later in the year.
Yeah.
Just so, we can kind of think about what's going on.
Any other questions about that or suggestions? But yeah, if you have specific, as you think about witnesses and who we should hear about or members of the work group, let us know and Lori know so we can get people scheduled the next week or so.
Do we have a sense of the timeline for how, when we'd like to wrap up this particular bill?
I don't. Not right away.
Okay. That's good.
That's a good time.
I mean, we're gonna be bumping up against the clock soon.
I know, I
This is
know.
week 12, so.
Crazy.
Do we have any, switching gears, 157 recovery residents, do you have any sense of timing of when we might hope to?
Not right away. Lori.
Well, there's lockup and everything done on that.
Okay, so let's take a minute, take a break for 8 minutes and then